Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Wieners. I'm the managing partner of Hogo Digital. Hogo Digital is a marketing and advertising company based in Macau with several locations throughout Asia. And we primarily focus on marketing and promotions for the casino gaming industry, again, in Macau and various jurisdictions throughout Asia. I started this company back in 2011, so I've been doing this for about 10 years now. And prior to that, I was a director of marketing with the Sands China Corporation, also based in Macau, based in the Venetian Macau, actually. And at that time, I was looking after branding and marketing work as related to Sands China properties in Macau across the Asia Pacific region. So just a quick overview and a bit of background on myself. So I would not want to be somebody to say that junkets are dead. I don't see, there's, of course, the recent events, I think, are while shocking to some, I think are part of the overall plan to reduce Macau, as we're speaking about, Macau's reliance on this sort of VIP and very specific gaming segment, which has dominated it for a very long time. Ever since I've been there, and well before that, I moved to Macau in 2007. And, I don't believe that they're dead. I think that part of the proof of life comes from the fact that there are still properties that we'll refer to as more the, locally, Chinese Hong Kong owned entities such as Galaxy, SJM Group, who have, as of this time, have not rescinded any of their contracts or relationships with junkets and have been clear that they haven't necessarily said they plan to continue using them, but there are no plans at this time to end or cancel those relationships. So that's one sign. I think the other aspect is there's always going to be a need for junket operators in some capacity. Even in the completely legitimate sort of white frame of gaming operations, there is a need for Chinese players to be able to access funding. And also to be able to manage relationships cross-border between mainland China and the Macau operations. And again, because a lot of those relationships are very third-party based, I don't see junkets fully going away. I think what this does bring is the next generation of junket operations, which is going to be, significantly diminished in its importance. And again, I think that's not really surprising to people that are familiar with the market. This is something that has been really touted as, Macau's long-term plan. Again, since I moved there in 2007, at the time that the Venetian was just opening, I remember, the governments of both Macau and mainland China being very clear that, the focus long-term for Macau is on a combination of non-gaming, entertainment, MICE, all of the things that I think we'll speak about here today. But really, getting away from that VIP segment is not necessarily surprising. I think some of the ways it's been done, and maybe the speed of which it's happened in just the past couple of weeks and what that has brought about is a bit shocking. But the ultimate goal of moving away from a very VIP focused model again is not necessarily surprising. So I believe that these operators, these junket operators that are in existence, will continue to play a role. I think that very much like the crunch that we saw several years ago, where we went from several hundred operators to far fewer, I think that you're going to see a similar crunch now, where a lot of the larger, sort of more mature operators will eat the few remaining mid-level, sort of mid-size organizations and smaller organizations in existence. And I think that they will continue to exist. But I think that operators for sure are going to look at moving away from a VIP-centric, VIP-focused model, not only because of the recent events, but this is something, again, that's been touted to them for a significant period of time by both the Macau and Chinese governments. And I think that there are, various things in play at the moment, licensing being one of the top issues at the moment that are going to ultimately impact how casino operators market to and promote their products to tourists from the mainland. So definitely not dead. I believe a very diminished focus on the junket model moving forward for Macau. But I do believe that some of the larger operators very much will be able to survive and maybe even thrive as we get through the next few months and as we hopefully pull out of the COVID-19 pandemic. But I do believe that there is a place for junkets moving forward, just in a somewhat diminished role. Well, I think that absolutely heritage. Heritage, if we look at Macau tourism in general, heritage is something that has been touted heavily by not just operators and individual, tourism operators in Macau, but by the MGTO, the Macau Government Tourist Organization, the government entity which promotes Macau tourism. Heritage has been a significant driving factor of Macau's, sort of outward message to the world with regards to what it offers. Of course, casinos have always been, or not even casinos, we'll say integrated resorts, and their offerings have always been secondary or even tertiary in a lot of the promotions, advertising, and general branding that Macau does as a whole. So, you have to look at what Macau has to offer and what are the competitive advantages and the opportunities against other rising destinations in Asia. IRs and gaming are being heavily developed, in a wide array of jurisdictions, all of whom are ultimately looking at, inbound Chinese tourism as one of the key, if not the key leading market that they want to go after, whether we're looking at Korea, the Philippines, Singapore, Cambodia, in the future, potentially Japan. All of these markets are looking at what the Chinese tourist offers. So, of course, Macau has this incredible opportunity that will never go away, which is it is at China's doorstep and it is part of the greater China entity. So, the ability for visitors to travel to Macau is not always only going to be there, but it's always going to be, a relatively easy trip to make. So where Macau has to diversify overall, and this trickles down to, operators, tour operators, etc., is, what is the message? What is the succinct message that Macau wants to be known for? And with the amount, of course, you mentioned culture and heritage, with the amount of UNESCO World Heritage sites that are in existence, within the country, and the amount of emphasis that's placed on those, there is a massive opportunity to continue to promote culture and heritage. Obviously there's a Macanese cultural heritage component there. There's a Portuguese component, a Chinese component. There's food, beverage, entertainment, festivals, all of these things that roll up into what makes Macau unique from any other destination in Asia. And I think that it will play very well into the hands of operators who, further continue to embrace that in their messaging and cooperating very closely with entities such as the MGTO ongoing. That's going to be looked at very, very positively. I think that one thing that Macau has an opportunity to focus on is its ability to create a succinct message for global tourism promotion. So what I mean by that is, right now you have various operators that, they have their individual messages. Of course, you have the MGTO who tries to bring all that together and focus. I think that operators, it's going to be very important for them moving forward to be able to, again, work together to create from the integrated resort side a succinct message, again, that sort of resonates with global tourism. So, everybody talks about integrated resorts and the further development of things such as, MySpace and entertainment offerings, food and beverage venues. And this is all really important and key, and that will continue to happen. And the licensing process we're in now is going to ensure that continues to happen. However, I think that, again, one of the things that properties in Macau had lacked in the past is working closely together for the sole purpose of marketing themselves, again, in sort of one succinct or with one message as to what Macau has to offer. The MGTO does that very well. I think it's going to be important for the properties to also play a role in maintaining that message moving forward. So I think with the licensing, the impending licensing, there are a few things that are going to come into play. One, I sort of just touched on, which is, what is the message that IR operators want to be known for? And it's obvious now, if we go back to the very first question about junkets, the sort of non-local operators, so your Wins, your MGMs, your Sands, Chinas that have sort of walked away from the junket model are very much kind of, I think, throwing up and saying, hey, we're not touching that model anymore. We're playing really well on the pool, they're trying to completely get out of that world of, sort of the junket VIP model because they don't want to ever have any potential of having, something held against them. So that's changing that marketing strategy in itself. The second, which is kind of relates to the second question you asked, is really around, a marketing strategy that is very wholly and succinctly tourism focused, that has nothing to do with with the casino side. That's very much a destination Macau message, and I think we're going to see, a lot more of that, moving forward. I think that with regards to the overall marketing strategy, it's a two-pronged approach. Of course, we want to be able to, of course, operators want to be able to maintain their existing relationships with customers, be it VIP, premium mass, even mass. They want to have a strategy to maintain relationships and to be able to win those customers back and bring them back on a regular basis and maintain and ultimately grow market share. So I think that there's going to be a major emphasis on that. But again, we have the issue of a lot of those customers are obviously gaming-focused customers, and most of them are China-focused or China-centric. And that's a really tricky spot for operators. You can't be seen as maintaining or developing or owning relationships with players in China if it's related to casino gambling. So I think that this may instill, two things. One, again, is the push for customers related to attracting customers, related to non-gaming amenities and entities within each individual resort, entertainment, food and beverage, all of the other great things that these operators have to offer. And I think that although right now it's very hard to see this, I think in the future, and future as in post-COVID-19 and post-border restrictions, post all of these issues that we have related to inbound international traffic from other destinations, I think you'll see a lot of operators also concentrate on other markets. I think that they're wise to do so. I think that looking at markets in North Asia, in Southeast Asia, this was very much a strategy back in the 2013 to 2015 and around that time, when you saw, the Venetian, for example, hosted the Indian Film Awards, right, IFA. That was a big thing, and we saw a massive increase in inbound visitation from India, new flights with the different airlines. Things started to really grow, and that sort of died off, and then COVID sort of really, I think, killed a lot of those initiatives, obviously. But I think that there is going to be an opportunity for operators to look at these, new and emerging markets that are sort of going to be resetting after COVID, and look at them as opportunities to grow the customer base, because Macau still does hold a lot of interest for customers outside of China, and with, to be quite honest, a lot less restrictions on how you speak to those customers, what you can say to those customers, how you promote to them. So I think that opens up the door a little bit for some creative advertising and marketing into some of these, again, to other markets that maybe weren't looked at before, or maybe, were looked at as, they're just too small, they don't really matter. The China market, again, very important, key to maintain. But it's going to always be there. It's a matter of attracting them in a way that works within the constraints of the China tourism laws, which again are very specific in terms of what you can and can't say. I'll give you an example. Websites, digital marketing, an area that I have a heavy background in. Utilizing platforms like WeChat in China to promote to Chinese tourists. These platforms have always been tight, but they're getting even tighter with regards to how they allow operators to talk to and promote to customers in PRC, because it's obvious what operators offer in Macau, even if it's not said. So, censoring everything that goes out and really playing well, on these channels as they promote into the market is going to be key. Otherwise, they're going to really struggle, I think, to be able to get their message into PRC. So back to the licensing point. Yeah, I think that operators are going to be much more cautious about the way that they go about promoting themselves in any market, China namely. And I think that, yes, it's going to be very hard at the moment for operators to go out there and look for new customers, especially in that market. One, with a slightly, not broken, but a diminishing junket presence. And two, with the inability, and rightfully so, the inability for operators, or the desire for operators to stay on the right side of the China law, which says you can't promote gaming in China. You can't be out there hunting for customers in China. It's pretty clear. So with that regard, I think that yes, if operators are, are smart enough to know that they very much need to work not only within the confines, but maybe even with extra levels of scrutiny when it comes to how they approach and how they attract customers in the mainland China marketplace. I think the first thing is, and most operators will know this, and it sounds very obvious, but really understanding, and I read this in several newspaper articles that came out of Macau, it's like making sure that operators, and not only at the most senior executive and sort of legal level, but at all levels that touch marketing and advertising, ensuring that operators are clear and their team members at all levels are clear on what you can and cannot do when it comes to attracting players in mainland China. I think that is the very first thing to developing a sound advertising and marketing strategy, and ensuring that all of your staff are, compliant within that, and that you don't run into any, issues. And it sounds like such an obvious thing, but, as we've seen, what seems really obvious for a lot of, within this gaming law and within what you can and can't say, doesn't necessarily always happen. So I think that's the very first thing, is ensuring that every level of staff understands in great detail, not only staff, but vendors. There are vendors out there. A lot of these operators use third-party vendors to help them promote into China. And I'm not referring to junkets. I'm referring to basic things like advertising, digital advertising, social media in China. These are really basic things, but ensuring that you're adhering very strictly to what those laws look and feel like, that's key. So that's the first thing. And then once you understand that, again, what is your message? What is that succinct message that you're going to go out there with? What are you leading with? Whether it's, product or destination, what is it that you're out there selling when you can't sell anything related to casino gaming? And I think that every property, every casino, every IR operator in Macau has a unique opportunity to, again, create some kind of unique spin on what it is that they have to offer. These are mega properties. They have a lot of really great things to say. They've got a lot of interesting, and exciting, existing features, and more upcoming. So I think that there's a lot to be said there, but I really go back and say, okay, that's the unique selling point or points for a particular property, but bringing that all together with Destination Macau, I think that if you had a group of properties that really said, hey, we're going to market what Cotai means, or what the peninsula means, or what Macau as a destination means into China, or into any market, really, that's going to hold a lot more success, having a succinct message, than sort of the individual properties all trying to do their own thing. It's tough order. It's tough to imagine properties working together in that regard. I think the MGTO does an amazing job of it, but I think that properties also need to take a lead in certain areas to sort of create that succinct destination message that they want to go out there with. So there are ways to attract customers, again, both online, offline, but as long as you're playing by sort of the China rules, I think that you'll be in good regard as you move forward. So that would be my advice to operators in Macau in terms of building that sustainable marketing strategy out.